The negotiations between the United States and Iran, which are taking place in Pakistan, have reached a deadlock due to the issue of control over the Hormuz Strait, and both sides intend to continue the war. Iran has stated that it demands full sovereignty over the Hormuz Strait and the right to collect duties for the passage of ships, while Donald Trump himself would like to take control of the strait. In addition, Trump stated that the United States has completely destroyed Iran's army, including the country's navy, but Tehran has already demonstrated that it is ready to continue the war with that very same destroyed army. Thus, we can draw the first conclusions from the direct negotiations. Iran once again emphasizes its red lines. U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance warns that American negotiators will not be receptive to Iran's gamesmanship, and Donald Trump claims that the U.S. has begun the process of clearing the Strait of Hormuz. Let's discuss together now what's happening at the negotiations in Pakistan at the moment. My name is Alexei Pichi. Let's discuss this topic together, but before we start, I ask you to subscribe to the channel, like this episode, and leave any comment under this video. If you want to support the work of this YouTube channel, you can do so with any donation. You can use the links and payment details in the description of this video or the QR code on your screens. And be sure to subscribe to my Telegram channel, Pichi News. The link to it is also in the description of this video. So, late into Saturday night in Islamabad, a meeting of high-ranking American and Iranian officials continues, the highest level meeting in the last half-century, during which they are trying to put an end to the 6-week war. Why half a century? Because the last time American and Iranian officials met at such a high level was before the start of the Islamic Revolution in 1979. According to a Pakistani source, direct talks between U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance, Special Envoy Steve Witkoff, and President Trump's son-in-law Jared Kushner, as well as Iranian Parliament Speaker Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf and Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi, are continuing late into the night, and there are predictions that they will continue on Sunday as well. The meeting was also attended by the Chief of Staff of the Pakistani Army, who is highly regarded by Donald Trump and who has connections with the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. And right now, the Financial Times is reporting that reports from Islamabad indicate that negotiations between the US and Iran have reached a deadlock over the issue of control of the Hormuz Strait. In particular, Iran insists on maintaining its control over the waterway and charging fees from ships. That is, Iran is demanding to come out as the winner of this war. They say the Hormuz Strait should be recognized as territory belonging only to Iran, and only the regime in Tehran will be able to decide in the future who and how can pass through these waters. Interestingly, even before the war began, Iran didn't actually have such demands during negotiations. This is another achievement to add to Donald Trump's record. Trump cleverly suggested to the Iranians to create a joint venture that would collect tribute from passing ships and split the money between the two sides. So yes, don't be surprised here, Trump suggested to the opponent, meaning Iran, to make money together off the allies, that is, the countries of the Persian Gulf. But as it became known, the Iranian negotiators are rejecting the ideas of joint control despite the high-level meeting. That is, U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance and Iran's wartime leader Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf. Against this backdrop, a U.S. representative reported that on Saturday, several U.S. Navy ships crossed the Strait of Hormuz, the blockade of which by Iran led to the largest disruption in global energy supplies in history. However, Iranian state television and a source in Pakistan denied reports of any American vessels passing through this waterway. They stated that the ships did approach the strait, but the Iranians warned them and they turned around and left. In addition, the U.S. Central Command stated that American ships had begun the process of clearing mines in the Hormuz Strait, although the Iranians were not aware of this and allegedly drove the American ships out of the strait. There is another sign that this issue is disputed. Earlier, a high-ranking Iranian official told Reuters that the U.S. had agreed to unfreeze assets held in Qatar and other foreign banks, but the Americans immediately denied this. And so we understand that Iran is also demanding the unfreezing of assets as a basis for the agreement. And one high-ranking Iranian source even went so far as to say that such an unfreezing is a sign of the seriousness of the negotiations. I would also note that before representatives of the US and Iran met in person, Pakistan's Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif held separate meetings with the Iranians and the Americans to once again establish their red lines. Tehran's agenda includes recognition of its authority and sovereignty over the Hormuz Strait, where it intends to collect transit fees and control access. The Strait is a bottleneck for about 20% of the world's oil and liquefied natural gas supplies. Iran is also demanding a complete ceasefire between Israel and Lebanon's Hezbollah, which it says should have been part of the original agreement with the US. Israel and the US deny that Lebanon was part of the ceasefire agreement, and the White House explains this dispute as a misunderstanding, saying that the Iranians misunderstood them. Israel, which began a military campaign against Iran together with the US 6 weeks ago, is currently not represented at the talks at any level. The host country, that is Pakistan, does not have diplomatic relations with Israel and does not recognize its sovereignty. Therefore, it is obvious that there will still be separate discussions regarding Lebanon. Israel has called on the Lebanese authorities to engage in dialogue regarding the disarmament of the Hezbollah group. To see who's pressuring their opponent in the negotiations, recall the latest statements and actions. And here, the President of the United States, Donald Trump, has repeatedly posted messages on social media stating that Iranian officials, quote, have no cards to play in negotiations. Moreover, Trump even wrote, quote, the only reason they are alive today is the start of negotiations. He accused Iran of using the Strait of Hormuz for extortion and stated that the strait would be open, quote, with them or without them. The chief negotiator from the US, J.D. Vance, stated that the US is optimistic about the negotiations, but warned, quote, if they try to deceive us, they will find that the negotiating team is not very receptive to that. At the same time, the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Iran, Abbas Araghchi, stated that Tehran is entering the negotiations with deep mistrust caused by previous strikes on Iran during earlier rounds of talks. Araghchi, who is part of the Iranian delegation in Pakistan, stated that his country is ready to strike back in case of another attack. In addition, both sides showed what they brought to these negotiations. At the same time, Iran once again published its 10-point proposal. It contains a call for a guaranteed end to the war and the prevention of future attacks. A demand was made for the lifting of economic sanctions and the establishment of control over the Strait of Hormuz. The proposal also included a cessation of hostilities against Iran's so-called regional allies, meaning these terrorist groups, directly calling for an end to Israeli strikes against Hezbollah, the Iran-backed Lebanese terrorist group. The United States of America, in response, presented its own 15-point proposal, which includes limiting Iran's nuclear program and reopening the Strait of Hormuz. But it was Iran's closure of the Strait of Hormuz that turned out to be its main strategic advantage in this war and at the negotiating table as well. Merchant ships are blocking the strait, effectively preventing the passage of oil, gas, and fertilizers. On Saturday, the spot price for Brent crude oil exceeded $94. This is, of course, a bit lower than it was a week ago or earlier, but it's more than 30% higher than at the beginning of the war, on the first day of the war. Before the conflict, about 1/5 of the world's oil trade usually passed through the Hormuz Strait, with more than 100 ships per day, so that's quite a lot. And after the announcement of the ceasefire, only 12 ships were recorded passing through the strait over several days. Before, there were more than 100 per day. Negotiations are at a dead end because, as you see, everything now centers on the Hormuz Strait, which wasn't even mentioned before the war. During negotiations before the hostilities between the US and Iran began, there wasn't even any talk about the Hormuz Strait. Now it has become the key topic of these. I'll leave it at that. Share your opinions and conclusions in the comments below this episode. Subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, and don't forget to like. If you want to support the work of this YouTube channel, you already know what to do. You can do it with a donation. All the links and payment details are in the description of this video or by the QR code on your screen. And don't forget to subscribe to my Telegram channel, Peachy News. The link to it is in the description of this video. There we publish breaking news as it comes in. That's all for now. Take care of yourselves. Goodbye, everyone.